Hello and welcome to our latest edition of Agent Insights. Today I'm joined by Hugh and Ben Eden-Carruthers, founders of Huben Travel. Hi guys, thanks for joining us.
Hello, thanks for having us.
Hi. So just to briefly introduce you for people who may not know. So Huben Travel is obviously named after you guys. You are both business partners, but you are also married to each other. And your travel business is focused on tailor-made high-end holidays for the LGBTQ plus community. So I'm glad I got through that. That was a bit of a mouthful there. So first off, tell us a little bit about your backgrounds and what sort of led to you setting up the business in the first place.
I was a West End stage manager for 11 years. So I was working evenings and all that kind of antisocial hours. So I never saw Hugh. He's an accountant, so he works 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So we just needed something that we were passionate about and that we could both do together at home. So then that's when we decided that, you know, we wanted to set up a travel company. So the great thing is with us setting this up, it means that we can put our passion for travel into our business. So we looked at what we wanted from holidays, and when we came to booking our honeymoon, we couldn't find a company that was basically going to book the trip that we wanted. There are loads of LGBT companies out there doing a great job, but we couldn't find exactly what we wanted. So what we did was we wanted to set up a company that was basically a highly personalized premium travel agency that would just focus on the individual and tailor every item to them, like as in every set bit of the trip to exactly what they wanted, obviously while doing the research for safe travel within that within that country, because there are still loads of places in the world that it isn't safe to travel for LGBT travelers. So we wanted to set up a company that would do the research for people and spend the time doing that to save people having to do that. And it's just giving people that confidence to be able to travel to the countries that they might not have thought of, because there are places like in the Middle East, like even Dubai, for instance, is so popular as a holiday destination, but it's illegal to be gay there. So there are questions around whether we would travel there and things like that. So it's all about giving that information and that personalized service, and people can come to us with their ideas and kind of dreams, and we can put it together. So that's the kind of company we wanted to create, and we hope that through spending time with people on the phone and on video calls like this, we can plan trips that are perfect for them.
Yeah. Okay.
I think as travelers ourselves, we always found that we love to travel. We've always loved to travel the world, and it was always a struggle to kind of properly research everywhere and familiarize ourselves with the laws and the customs of all the various different places, and then decide where to go. It takes time, and when you're busy professionals like we were, particularly when we were working opposite ends of the sort of day, we just didn't have the time to research those things. So we want to be able to kind of do that for our customers, and then that those people to come to us, and we can impart our knowledge and research from all the destinations to them.
Sure. Okay. So I mean, I watched your YouTube video, which was great, by the way. I loved that, and I learned that Hugh, you are Mr. Particular and enjoy the finer things in life. While Ben is more relaxed. You like to lie by the pool a lot. Apparently, that was repeated quite a lot in the video. So tell me more about this kind of two voices concept that you have and how it works for your customers.
So basically it's something we came up with our PR company, really, and we talked about it, and we realized that our holidays are always about compromise, because like you said, that I do love to lay by the pool. I think that's from my previous job. I was always busy and always up and about and working with people and so schedule driven with that job. So when I went on holiday, I wanted to be completely the opposite, lay and do nothing and have no schedule. Whereas Hugh's a bit more tour guide Barbie. He likes to have an agenda. He likes to see the sights and things like that. And I'm a little bit like, okay, well, we can do that, but also I want to lay by the pool for a little bit. So we kind of have to compromise on holidays. And we realized that that's quite a theme that that other people probably suffer too, really. So what we do as part of our offering is when we plan a trip, we kind of give advice. Hugh says, Ben says, if that makes sense. So I will say, do you know what, the best place to go is to this cocktail bar and to try this cocktail and sit and enjoy the sunset in this bar. Whereas Hugh will be like, oh, go and see the sights at this place, and these ruins are beautiful and things like that. So we try and give 2 viewpoints for every trip we plan, because we realize that holidays are about compromise, especially when you're traveling as a couple. Like Hugh never travels anywhere without his shoehorn, which everyone finds hilarious.
Because I thought that was kind of a bit of a joke, but that's
it really does.
Genuinely.
So genuinely, when we were flying up, we were flying backwards and forwards to Glasgow quite a lot because we got married in Scotland. And the week before our wedding, we travelled through Heathrow Airport, and this made it into his dad's wedding speech, actually. We travelled through Heathrow Airport, and he said, honestly, if they're going to make me take my shoes off, they need to provide a shoehorn. So now wherever we travel, he has a shoehorn in his hand luggage.
Interesting. That's not essential for everyone, but I guess.
Whereas I just slip on a pair of like Converse and I'm happy.
It's true.
And comfortable.
So I mean, when you launched the concept, you said that for LGBT travellers, the smallest details often make the biggest difference. Presuming you weren't talking about shoehorns there, but what did you mean by that?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we found throughout the travels that we've had in various places, and it does vary between places, but the consistent theme was we would turn up to hotels and we'd be asked if we wanted 2 single beds, or is 2 single beds okay? There was very rarely the assumption of a kind of a double bed, and it was kind of always those little details to us that made such a difference, because you've had a long flight, you've arrived somewhere, you've checked into your lovely hotel. All you want to do is just relax, and then you the first question is kind of questioning who you're traveling with and why, and it just puts a slight negative slant on it, and it's always kind of like we've always said, there is really absolutely no need really for that question to be asked if the right information is taken beforehand, it's communicated down to the right people. And big international hotels, they have the systems and process in place to be able to do that. They just don't, or it's lost in communication somewhere. So it's kind of those little details. When we take a booking, we want to have a relationship with every single hotel and supplier that we deal with, and quite a close relationship. So all the hotels that we feature, we've spoken to a general manager or a reservations manager within a hotel, so we've got point of contact. Should there be any issues, but also just so that the hotels that we're not quite confident will be able to just assume that it's a double bed or think about asking the question, we can go back and provide that information explicitly and say, this is a gay couple, they're going to want a double bed. All those kind of like tiny little details, they do make a big difference.
Yeah, no, I can definitely understand that. I mean, interestingly, whilst you were saying that, it made me think, do you have, you talked a little bit about Dubai and destinations which aren't perhaps so friendly. Do you have a kind of ethical consideration? If someone does come to you and say, I want to go somewhere like Dubai that isn't particularly inclusive, do you absolutely try and put them off that, or do you just manage expectations and make sure that they're safe and well informed when they're there?
Exactly. So this is the whole point of our company. If someone wants to travel to the Middle East, then that's absolutely fine by us, but we'll do the research and make sure they're fully prepared and have the toolkit to be able to go there. Because quite often you can travel and you just have to pretend to be brothers, or you just no public displays of affection. And quite often, if you stay in a well-renowned like international hotel, you're totally fine, because they are internationally owned. It's things like when you get down to budget accommodation and like hostels and things like that, you will probably fall into a bit of a trap. But I think as long as you're staying international and you're armed with the right information, I think you can basically travel anywhere in the world. It's just for us, it's just, do you want to feed their tourist industry when their laws aren't quite as progressive as other countries? And that's our massive kind of tug of war really, because I mean, I was all for not featuring the Maldives, because even the Maldives is gay. It's illegal to be gay in the Maldives. But we all know that so many gay travelers do go to the Maldives. I mean, we've been ourselves, and it's totally fine in an international hotel because all those islands are internationally owned.
Yeah.
But obviously the law of the country that it sits in is anti-homosexuality, which is,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and it's exactly that. It's knowing those nuances between like what's the law and what's reality, what's the custom there, what really actually happens. And the Maldives is such a great example where homosexuality is illegal, but all the international hotels, and they're all based on their own islands, they're all completely accommodating, completely accepting. And when we've spoken to, three resorts out there, personally, and they're all like absolutely welcoming. It just won't be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Tricky. I mean, what are the biggest sort of trending destinations for the LGBT market, and I guess, yeah, in general, but also at the moment, with everything that's going on, would you say?
Well, there are obviously Europe at the moment. We're all obviously just focusing on the UK and Europe with the pandemic happening and things like that, and kind of looking ahead to long haul kind of for next year. But in terms of trending, actually, like, strangely enough, Rwanda's really popular for like LGBT like safari and things like that at the moment. I think it's Ellen DeGeneres. She set up like a trust, like an Ellen Trust out there, like fundraising for the sanctuaries for the gorillas out there. So obviously, with her being a massive LGBT kind of like flag waving celebrity, it kind of does countries like that kind of some good, really. And their laws are kind of, you are allowed to be gay in Rwanda, which is kind of strange because it sits right in the middle of Africa, where their neighbors are absolutely not as progressive as they are. So yeah, we're seeing kind of like I mean, South Africa has always been fine. But yeah, but in terms of popular at the moment, it's definitely kind of Europe and places we can actually travel to. So yeah,
I think that's the difficulty, isn't it? It's like at the moment, where is trending, where is popular? Like, yeah, Scotland, Cotswolds. But yeah, I think outside of that, in normal terms, I think those kind of places. I think people want adventure, they want excitement, they want to try new places, and it's about finding those places that LGBT travelers are going to feel safe and welcome and still have a good time. And I think Rwanda and places like that provide all the above sort of things.
Yeah, Rwanda, I never would have thought. Could you give
exactly.
a few more examples like that of places that people perhaps like wouldn't think but are LGBT friendly?
It's difficult, really, because there are so many that are like friendly, but like that aren't well known. The problem is with places, it's easier to say the ones that will surprise you that aren't. If that makes sense. So obviously people always think, oh, most of Europe is, but there's quite a lot of Eastern European countries that they're almost going backwards in their progressions. And the countries that are fairly close to Russia, for instance, Ukraine, Poland as well. Like, there are just a couple that are just tricky in terms of their beliefs. I mean, we've both been to Poland a couple of times and had no problems at all. But just recently, the news, it's just creeping in a little bit where it could be tricky. So that we strangely, we find it easier to tell people where it's a bit more tricky to travel. I think that's because where we base our research in terms of because I think it's better to be armed with the knowledge of the places that are being a bit tricky, and reading like current news about the LGBT kind of rights and things like that in countries, because it does change so often. So I think it's important to be up to date, and although you do see positive news about when gay marriage becomes legal and things like that, it's always more prevalent in the news if things have been negative. Like, we often read more about that. So yeah, in answer to the question, it's really strange because it's easier for us to tell you where's not.
Which is a shame. So where, I mean, do you have some real sort of places that you just don't send people at all? I guess places in the Middle East and
the Middle East, like Saudi Arabia and places like that, are just too tricky, too tricky at the moment. And Saudi Arabia are moving forward, because obviously we look at, you know, the recent allowing women to drive, for instance, and things like that. It's the Crown Prince is quite young, and things are becoming more progressive there, which is great, and it can only be a good thing that it's heading in the right direction. But I think they've still got quite a long way to go compared to, you know, Western countries.
And how important is it for your sort of sector of the travel industry when a destination really sort of grabs hold of that LGBT market and really kind of runs with it and promotes itself on that basis? Like Malta springs to mind for me in terms of European country that's it really markets itself on that LGBT friendly kind of plus, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think that's great. I think any country that says that they are LGBT friendly is excellent, because it means that you can go there and you can completely be yourself. Because there are so many places that it is legal to be gay, but still it's recommended that you don't show public displays of affection, even walking hand in hand down the street. And some countries, even for straight couples, that's the case. But I think countries like Malta and again, like Germany is very, very forward thinking in terms of their LGBT rights. Like Berlin's probably one of the best cities to go to if you're LGBT. There are so many bars and clubs and just so accepting, and you can basically be yourself there. As I say, there are just some places that just get it, and that's great, because it means you can be yourself the entire time. And
I think it comes back to the confidence thing as well. I think, you know, any traveller, regardless of who they are, is always wants confidence when they're travelling. You know, it's you know, from all aspects, from safety, security, you know, regardless of sort of sexuality and things. But yeah, if the tourist boards are banging the drums and promoting things, then it only does us all a favour, because it's a confidence thing. It's, you know, customers see it, you know, another positive point from a different angle, and it just gives them more incentive and more confidence to travel there. So it is a really positive thing. It's a massive helping hand.
I think as soon as you're away from home, your comfort of your house and your local environment, I think it's important to feel comfortable and safe. So that's why we go out of our way to do the research to make sure that the countries are safe. And if someone comes to us and wanted to travel to a country that we're not familiar with, we'll make sure we put in the time to make sure we've got the information for them to make sure that they're going to have a good time, or recommend that, you know, they could try somewhere else.
And you guys are really focused on the sort of tailor-made aspect, so you must have to sort of do quite a lot of research there, because you're looking at that really bespoke kind of itinerary, but then you're also looking at sort of honing it down into that particular market. So how do you say that you're building up kind of a network of contacts and suppliers? How are you going about doing that?
So Hugh touched on it earlier. We've used the time basically through the pandemic to contact every single hotel that we feature on our website. We've basically got for 99% of our hotels on our website, we've now got like a GM contact, or like a concierge contact, or a reservation manager contact within the hotel. And we've obviously explained what we wanted to do, explained who we are, and all have come back with like massive open arms and, you know, praise, and are happy to have our guests in their hotels and resorts. So that's been really encouraging and lovely, and it means that we've got a point on the ground to ask for like local tips and local knowledge and things like that. So when we come to planning a trip, for instance, we just did one the other day to Glen Eagles, and I know that it's only in Scotland, but it's nice to have the local staff to tell you where to go in Edinburgh and places like that. So to have, you know, the inside knowledge from local people has been essential, really. And we're working with a couple of DMCs as well, and they've got obviously local offices in each country that they work with. So that's great, because it means that we can plan local trips using people's local knowledge, which is great, because obviously we are well traveled, but we can't go to every single place in the world. So we do need to rely on, you know, our contacts within the hotels to put us in contact with other people to be able to plan really lovely, because there's nothing better than local experiences. There's nothing worse than getting to a tourist destination and just seeing it's built horribly for tourists. I think there's something quite nice about traveling and getting to experience things like a local. it's one of our favorite things to do anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And that was always the plan, always the business model was we would have this portfolio of hotels that we've spoken to directly. And if we can't get hold of a GM right now from, before, as we're starting up, then, crikey, what would we do when the customer's there and they've got a problem, we can't get in contact with them? So that means we shouldn't really be working with them. So it kind of twofold from that perspective. But COVID's given us, the opportunity to kind of, spend the time building up these relationships, which probably ordinarily, had we launched back in April, which is the original plan, we probably wouldn't have had time, and would have been trying to firefight everything else and not really had the time to really invest in kind of building up these relationships. And as Ben says, what it's meant is we've managed to get, relationships with people, for, advice on, things to do in the local area and stuff like that, which has just been, it's paid its dividend already. It's been really good.
Yeah, silver lining. That's good to hear. So
Absolutely, definitely, yeah.
So, I mean, going on to the dreaded subject of COVID-19, which I have to ask. So, I mean, obviously, you kind of have launched in the midst of all this. Like, how is business going, and how have you sort of coped with it all?
Yeah. Well, we're quite lucky because obviously we've got very little outgoings. There's just the two of us. We work from our home office, so we've not got actually, we've got no staff or anything like that. So all we're really, outgoings is kind of our memberships to our trust account, really. So we're quite lucky in that way, and it's given us the time to do the research that we've just kind of talked about. But the good thing is that we, unlike the rest of the industry that are just exhausted from having to refund and look after people and things like that, we're kind of coming into this with fresh eyes and feeling ready to go because we've not had all that to deal with. So we are kind of in a positive. We are, we're kind of like in a non-tired, non-exhausted state.
Yeah.
Unlike the rest of the industry, and it just shows dividend to the industry. They've worked so hard to kind of look after their travelers and things like that. And tour operators have been so tricky to deal with, but travel agents have just bent over backwards and been on hold to tour operators and things like that. And we've learned very quickly that the industry, from the media, it's been pointed at the travel industry generally, but I think that what's happened over the last month or so especially is the tour operators and the travel agents have been separated in terms of their roles within the industry. And I think travel agents have made it clear that, they desperately want to refund people, but the problem is when they're dealing with the tour operators, they've got to deal with, call centers and all that kind of stuff. And that's why we believe it's so important to use a travel agent now, because at the end of the day, if you book something yourself through a tour operator, or you book it yourself, packaging it all yourself, on booking.com and all those kind of other websites that you can use, you're the one that's going to have to sit on hold and sort all that out. So if you use a travel agent, the 10% that the travel agent may charge you on top of, where you could get it cheap, 10% cheaper, by booking it all yourself, that 10% is basically paying for the travel agent to sit on hold and fix all the problems for you and get as much money back as possible in the refund process. So yeah, I think the COVID-19 situation has kind of highlighted the importance of a travel agent, because it was definitely going down the road of, people booking a lot of things themselves because it is so easy to do. But by using a travel professional, it means that they've got your back and they will look after you and try their hardest to get you a refund. And that's what we've said. We've said at the moment we just book everything so that it's cancelable. If anything happens, we can just completely refund our guest in full, and then we'll have the rigmarole of trying to get everything back from the various suppliers that we've used.
Yeah. What about your sort of marketing? Is that, because you talked about, I totally agree with you. This time has absolutely highlighted the importance of travel agents. Is that something that you'll be concentrating on in your marketing as well?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I think marketing specifically has been one of our biggest challenges in terms of, COVID. I think we are, we're trying to look at the positives in everything in life, because, you can just spend, too long, mulling over the negatives. But, there has definitely been lots of positives in terms of starting a business, in the current climate. There absolutely has, and some of those have been, we've been able to spend time on the website, been able to spend time getting our back office systems up and running, IT, all the kind of boring stuff that, is going to cause us issues. We managed to hopefully, iron out a lot of those issues now while we've been relatively quiet. And And then, you know, so that got us through to kind of sort of the Mayish time. And then we had to turn our thoughts to marketing. And we really struggled because neither of us come from a marketing background. I'm an accountant. Ben used to be a stage manager. Marketing was our weakest point. And we really struggled and mulled over a long time the right time to kind of press the button on marketing and start marketing our business. Because you want to launch to a fanfare. You don't just want to sit there and sort of hope that people come across you and trip over your website on Google. It's not going to happen. So yeah, we kind of kickstarted our marketing about a month and a half ago. And yeah, it's paid dividend. It's great. We've had some brilliant traffic to the website and things like that. And you know, we're sort of turning our attention now to what sort of specific areas to focus on, you know, to focus and home in on from a marketing perspective. And I think one of those is absolutely the why use a travel agent and the importance of using a travel agent and the added confidence and security you get, because it's you know, if we hadn't started a travel company and we were going on holiday again or looking to book a holiday now, you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I would say we would definitely, you know, you'd be using a travel agent. And I think everybody should. I think they're just, you know, they're worth their weight in gold, you know, particularly, you know, and I think we've learned that through the relationships we built up with the suppliers, you know, because we are only working with the suppliers that have got back to us and that are amenable and that are contactable and that are friendly and that are willing to speak to us on the phone and not hide behind emails and stuff like that. And that will pay dividend when there are issues, because we can, you know, pick up a phone and speak to our contacts rather than just emailing generic email addresses and all those kind of things. So, you know, and they're the kind of, you know, yeah, the assets that travel agents have. So
definitely. And I mean, what about how resilient is your particular customer base? I know, I mean, it's kind of a funny question really, but have you seen a sort of a demand or a sort of at least a pent up demand for travel?
Yeah, definitely. I think LGBT travelers, you know, it's definitely a community. And I think because we're providing this bespoke service, we've seen that, you know, LGBT travel is probably the quickest to start coming back, really. You know, you've not got kids to worry about necessarily. So people have just got a pent up demand, like you say, and they've got the disposable income. So everyone they're just desperate to travel, really. So we've, you know, had loads of inquiries of just people chatting about travel, and it's been really lovely, really, and a really nice response from the community. Because I think there is a certain amount of that within our niche. I think people from the LGBT community come to us because, you know, we're from that community as well, and I think that really helps because we obviously understand, you know, their requirements as a traveller. So yeah, in terms of our niche sector, I think we're quite lucky in the way that it's quite a supportive community behind us, really.
Yeah.
I think it's a difficult time, isn't it, right now, to call out, you know, whether anything's coming back and what's around the corner. And I think, but there's definitely green shoots from the LGBT market for sure. You know, customers are definitely pent up and wanting to travel, particularly for next year. But I think, you know, certainly our main concern is a business is what's around the corner, and, you know, is everybody going to go kind of back into hiding because of, you know, the next changing government advice and things like that. So it's just really difficult.
Tricky times. So I mean, what tips would you give to an agent who might be listening to this, who's perhaps not an expert in your sector of travel, but who has a customer walk in and ask for an LGBT friendly holiday?
I think it's important not to pretend, like, if you don't know much about the LGBT community, I think it's important not to pretend you do, because you can always ask the wrong questions and things like that. But equally, it's about not being scared by that, because even the LGBT is so difficult to say, like, as in LGBTQ is even more hard to say. But, you know, people, I think if you're trying, like, I think people appreciate that more than not bothering and completely drawing a line and not bothering with the community. But I would say that in terms of tips, I would say just do some research. Like, it's so important now. And even like big international hotel groups are doing training for LGBT guests. So they're training their reception staff on kind of like the etiquettes, like we were saying earlier. Don't ask if they want a double bed. Don't ask if they want twin beds, because they will just come down to reception and say, if they're brothers, they will come down to reception and say, it's a double bed, can we split them? Which is, you know, totally understandable. So yeah, tips I would say is definitely just do some research in terms, you know, speak to them where they want to go, and just treat people as individuals. And, you know, we're exactly the same as anyone else, really. We've kind of, got the same requirements for holidays as anyone else. But it might just be nice to have an arsenal of countries that it isn't safe to go to, because more and more people want to travel further afield, and it's nice to have that arsenal of.
I think Ben's absolutely right, and I think it boils down to kind of like just transparency and confidence. And I know when we were booking our honeymoon, the one thing that we just didn't get from the travel agent that we were looking to book a holiday with was kind of transparency and confidence. And you'd much prefer a blanket no rather than a wishy-washy kind of answer. And I think it's just avoiding those wishy-washies, like Ben says, being transparent and honest. If you don't know, just say you don't know, and and move on and look somewhere else, sort of thing. But wishy-washy does nobody any favors.
But there's also nothing wrong with saying leave it with me and I'll look into this for you, and properly doing the research. There's nothing to say that we have to find you a holiday while you're sat in front of us in our shop. So leave this with me, because I can plan you something excellent. I just want to make sure I've got it right for you. Is totally fine.
Are there any sort of resources available online that you can refer to that are kind of not blanket resources, but sort of places that you can go to that will tell you these things?
So we use quite a lot a free website called Equaldex, and there's links to that on our website for all the countries that we feature. And it's basically like TripAdvisor for gays, and it tells you type in the country and it tells you what the local laws are, when the laws changed, if there's been any trouble. But it's very similar to Wikipedia. Like, I think you can contribute to it. But it's very, very good. You put in the country you're traveling to, and it will tell you, all the local laws and customs and things like that, and things to look out for, and cities that may be safe, but areas that aren't, and things like that. I think it's a great resource. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me where you guys went for your honeymoon.
So we ended up doing, so it was a bit of a long story, really. We booked ourselves using our air miles, a one-way first class ticket to New York. And then we were going to sail back on one of the Cunard ships back to Southampton. And that was what we were going to do. We'd upgraded ourselves right to the top suites on board the ship, and we're just going to have a really, really lovely week of luxury. We got engaged in New York, so we wanted to spend a couple of days there before we sailed back. Yeah. Anyway, they cancelled the cruise because they figured that the ship was better placed in the Mediterranean for that time of year. So we were like, okay, now we've got a one-way flight to New York with no plans. So we basically did some research, and as Hugh said, we went to a travel agent, a well-known luxury travel agent, and we said to them, we want to go, potentially to the Maldives. And they said to us, okay, no problem. We were like, how is it for LGBT travelers to the Maldives? We obviously want to go on our honeymoon. They were like, oh, well, we think it's okay. And, we can't guarantee anything because obviously it is illegal. So there was no kind of like rigid, you're going to be fine, you're not going to get stoned to death kind of guarantee.
Yeah.
That was, obviously it didn't fill us with confidence. So we decided to move away from that. So we ended up calling a company that plans American road trips. Apologies for the dog. We ended up calling a company that plans American road trips, and said to them, if we manage to get a return flight to New York, 2 weeks in New York, in America, can you plan us a trip around New England? We want to see Niagara Falls, and we want to go to Great Barrington in Massachusetts, where I spent some time at an American summer camp. So that was basically the brief we gave them, and they ended up planning us a trip that took us out to Niagara Falls and Great Barrington and Boston and Cape Cod, and we ended up stumbling on Provincetown, which is like the gayest, lovely little town in Cape Cod, and we had a great time there. Newport, Rhode Island, and just had a really, really great 2-week drive around some of the most beautiful places in America. And little did we know, actually, that obviously the company that we booked it with had picked up on the fact that obviously we were a gay couple. So they routed us through like some gay friendly towns, and they put us in like gay friendly accommodation. And some of the accommodation was like more kind of like boutique, small hotel owned by gay couples and things like that. They'd really done their research. Oh. And it was really that kind of spark that we're like, that's the kind of company we want to be. Yeah. We want to subtly make sure that it's planned specifically for the couple that are sat in front of us, do you know what I mean? Rather than just a generic off-the-shelf package. They'd really done their homework, and that really kind of resonated with us, and it stuck with us, and it kind of has done right through to how we are putting our company together now, which was really lovely.
So that was kind of the spark, really, that led you
Yeah.
to think about setting it up. Yeah.
It really was. And actually, it's quite funny because the PR company we're working with now, they were working with the company that we booked our road trip with at the time. So it was probably through their advice that we got these amazing places, because obviously they do quite a lot of work with tourist agencies in America. So
yeah,
it was probably through them that we found them, which was lovely.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights today. And can we meet the dog briefly? Is the dog?
Yes. Come on, Cameron.
He's just barking because there's a postman outside, and he thinks it's for him.
Oh, postman. Yeah. Classic.
Here he is. So Cameron is absolutely part of the company.
What's Cameron's role? What does it? Is Cameron the admin dog or something like that?
Cameron's the stress dog. Like if ever we're stressed, he just comes and lays across our knee. You'll see in some of our like photography, there's like he just lays across your knee while you're taking calls and doing work at the computer and things like that. So yeah, he is an essential part of the business.
Definitely. Okay, well thank you so much, and best of luck with the business, and hopefully talk to you soon.
Brilliant.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thanks.